Hi guys. Right, we've posted a couple of videos up on it, a couple of comparison videos and that, so I think it's time for this to meet its maker. This is an eBay purchase. eBay purchase? No, this one isn't. This is a Facebook purchase. This is in amazing condition for something electronics of its age. This was bought on Facebook Marketplace just on a whim. It's all quite dark in here. As you can see, it's all here. We've even got some old beta cassette labels on here. This is a Sony Trinicon video camera. It is just a video camera, and there's no recorder to this, so we've had to modify this, or had to modify another unit to work with this. Let me just grab it out. So we've got all the box and everything here. Right, I'm going to pause it. We'll put you in the stand and we'll have a quick look at it. So here we go. This is as it comes out the box. We've had a bit of fun with this one. I actually quite like this camera. It would be nice to modernise it and find some way of finding it a permanent use, but unfortunately that's not going to be. So we put the viewfinder around like that. Somewhere under here there's a little lock which I now can't feel. So that locks the viewfinder in place, or in the case of this, doesn't. Pull that around, and there it is. It is literally just a camera. There's nothing else here. There is no recorder in this. Fairly basic controls. A lot of stuff though that you take for granted on a modern machine. The viewfinder comes off. Pull that out. The modifications we've made to have this work with the camera, the recorder we've actually tried using this with a TFT monitor, which works well. But you've got that there. We're all going to have a better look on at what's going on here in a minute. That is just a small CRT in there, and as I say, this one is all here. It's nice and complete. So yeah, but as I said, this one works. It's all complete. I can't get this back on now. It gives as good a picture as I'd expect for something like this, and it seems a shame to destroy it, especially given that it's in reasonably good condition. So this led me to go on a hunt to see if I could find another one, and it turns out these are actually fairly common. There are no end of them being sold spares or repairs, so that led me, get everything straight, that led me to go and get another one to pull apart. This is an HVC 4000. This is an HVC 2000. Other than the lens and a couple of button differences, there's not much between them that I can see. Pop that one out of the way. So this one here is effectively doomed. This is going to be pulled apart. The main reason that I've gone out and brought another one is I've looked at how these come apart, and I really don't fancy my odds of actually getting this back together. Difference wise, there's not a lot. We're missing a microphone connector here. We have a no-name lens rather than the Synopter on the other one. We've got slightly different controls on the side. The back's slightly different as well. Other than that, I can't really see anything. The camera talks to, it would originally have talked to an interface box via this connector. However, we've done away with the interface box and found other ways of doing things. So I'm just gonna, now this one here, it was brought spares repairs. It was supposed to be a 4000 and it's obviously not. I have powered it up. I can probably link a clip just down there what we get out of this one, but this has either got a tube fault or something else. So you know, I'm not worried about this one. I'm not worried about it going back together, and indeed I'm hoping to possibly salvage some parts for the other one. So what I'm going to do is we'll take this viewfinder off of this one, and I think we'll probably start with the viewfinder. The viewfinder does work. It would be nice to see if we can find another use for it. So we'll pop you down there. we'll zoom you in a bit. They've been, if you look around, you'll find these on the net. They're not that uncommon. A lot of cameras, in fact, most of them at the time, used these little CRT based displays. This one, the CRT is actually not even straight. So you'll see in here what we've got is the CRT is attached to a collar here. It's interesting to see that's loose, and those screws are quite badly nadgered, so this has been apart before. The CRT is attached to a collar here, so the CRT remains lined up with the mirror and the whole CRT moves. Let's just pop the top off. That is the only screws I can see. There is one down there as well. There you go. No, not coming out. I will take this off, this assembly off as well. This is very loose, which concerns me. Well, it doesn't concern me, it just means someone else has been in here. You know what? Screw it. We'll just take everything apart. Take all the screws out. All the screws. There have been people that have used these to make little arcade machines. I've seen clocks made with them. It's just a composite CRT monitor. It's not really anything at all special. Where are those screws in there? We've got a tally light. This does have a function for monitoring the white level, iris, and the other one says waveform. It brings up almost a little oscilloscope over the top of the main picture. So yeah, so oh, there you go, that just pops apart like that. That is fairly simple. So incidentally, let me just, I've just noticed there is a legend down there for the LEDs, which you can only see if you've got it at a real angle. I never even knew it was there. So you just got a mirror there. The mirror reflects the front of the CRT. You've got your two LEDs there, which is tape run and low light, and just an eyepiece. Nothing interesting there. And you can see just there, you can see the face of the little CRT, which I notice is now straight. I'm not convinced it is. Let's just gradually pop this apart. So that's just the shoe for the light. A couple of little bits, and there we go. Isn't that quite an amazing little CRT in there? So this is, I say, it's effectively a composite monitor. I think everything is loose. This hasn't been turned on, so I'm not going to get blasted by it. So can we pull that collar off? I'm not sure we can. And that is quite literally, any of you that have worked on older monitors and TVs will recognise that for exactly what it is. That's just a normal CRT, and that's able to move in here like that with the eyepiece. What have we got in here then? So there's more in here than I was expecting. So we've got a daughter board there. Okay. Pop this connector off and see if we can get all of this out. There's actually a lot more in here than I was expecting to see. The last one of these I took apart actually had a small board, and that was it. But there's quite a bit in here. So obviously, you know, we've got things like the tally light and things like that, but it does seem to be a lot more going on here. Get this out, or do we need to go in? Let's separate these two. So what have we got here? We've got some wiring here. Let's just, where does that go? So we've got, I'm guessing that's going to be power and a ground, possibly a composite video signal. Can you see me, or have I gone horribly off? Let's just zoom out a little bit. First glance at see, just undo all the connectors. go. So what have we got here? We've got tally light on the front. Does that go up to a connector? Yes, it does. We've got a little tally light on the front, just there. This still doesn't want to come out. Is that a knob? Can't decide whether that's a knob or whether that's just a... Let's just grab something to pull that off. Let's say I'm not particularly precious about this. No. It doesn't seem to want to go in though. Ah, there we go. Far too big a screw on. Yeah, some would say that it would make sense to actually have my tool box much closer to the mat when doing these. There you go, that's gone. Now, can we get this out yet? I want to know what's going on here. I want to know why we've got so many parts. Other than obviously it is quite an elderly bit of kit. What is that? Okay, didn't expect that. That's a plastic rivet. It's a nice thing about these older bits of kit. Everything is not held together by plastic clips. Right, let's just attempt to pop this back together again. They've actually used unique screws, so we're good on that. I'll zoom you in. So, what do we got? I want to see where these come from. These are your tape run and light LEDs. Oh, they're lovely old LEDs on them. I don't know if you can see those. Lovely old LEDs. I thought that was going to be something else. So we don't want that. And we have, I'm guessing, a focus coil looking at that, which is driven from here. So we've got another little PCB sat in here at a right angle. Brightness and your various mode switches. There's a lot of analog electronics on here, as to be expected. I'm not overly sure what this board actually does. Okay, we've got this marked here, which is V-Sync. But that appears to be the only... Oh, that's the variable resistor. Now, that's about the only information we've got on this board. So, I'm guessing it's some kind of pre-processing, because it's not really... You're connected to what looks like the focus yoke there. And that's it. So this connector here is your LEDs. This is connected to the focus yoke. There seems to be no other connection. The only other connection to this is that one there, which comes straight from the cable. Oh yeah, sorry. We've got this edge connector here which mates to here. So this is, I'm guessing, high voltage and not much else. We've got what has to be a line output transformer there. We've got our focus. I just want to see where... Yeah, that's definitely one side of the deflection coil, and the other side is here. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I will be able to do much with that, because obviously it's quite a big, bulky arrangement. The whole thing goes together a bit like that, and I'm sure someone could use it, but I can't think of anything immediately that I would. And you could, in theory, just use the high voltage side, find out how to drive that, and produce yourself a tiny little vector scope. But that had moved in there. I have no idea how you would go about getting the little CRT out of that. No, I'm not sure it's a good idea to find out. But yeah, let's just bring that up so you can have a good look at that tiny little CRT. Focus. Can I just disconnect everything? No, I can't. Put that back on there to protect that. There will be a right and a wrong way to do that. And I now can't find the key. It's there somewhere. There it is. Will you just focus on what I want you to focus on, please? It's a lovely little tube. We're going to find more of these in a minute, or at least one more of these. Then obviously you've got flyback transformer there, this big board. As I say, I am surprised that it's as complicated as it is. Right, let's have a look at the camera. I've done a little bit of research on this, and this thing is hellishly complicated inside. So we will just pop off the side covers. I've got some shimmering going on from a light over there. There's one out. Actually, I can hear the cries of anguish now as I've stood it on its lens. I can see a sticker on the back here, and there's something I really want to say, and I am really fighting to do it, not to do it. I do wonder if the sunlight might not be helping this video. So these just pull off. Oh, that looks like water's gotten in there at some point. They should just pull off. Oh no, there's one in there. And yes, my thumb is where it is for a reason. No, sorry, I can't not do it. You know what Dave from EV Vlog would be saying right now? Made in Japan. I believe the correct thing to say now is all the best stuff's made in Japan. Alright, we've got one side off. This one's going to be the same, I would imagine. Now, if you bear with me a second. And we will just for 1 second compare this to the amount of circuitry in a modern camera. And the big circuit board on that is infrared illumination. This camera is infinitely higher quality than this. There's also nearly 30 years between them. So I need to remind myself how these go together. So the board facing us, I believe, is most of the analog section. Let's just pop this off. I'll take you out the stand and let you have a closer look before I pop the boards out as well. I'll do the other side while I'm at it. One of the things I do not miss about working on through-hole equipment is what handling it does to the tips of your fingers. There's just so many razor-sharp pins everywhere. This is most definitely not going back together. This is going to be probably used for spares for the other one, and might get raided for components, but I mean this is old enough that there's probably not a lot in here that's useful. Not quite as bad as the radio transceiver that we've just done. There we go, so those boards are out. Now if I remember correctly, they come up and then fold out. One. Yep, I remember the way these go now. Let's just take you out. So here we go. So we've got a couple of bodge wires there, bodge caps, and you know, it's not the nicest circuit board I've ever seen. It's not been particularly well cleaned, but you know, it's fairly typical of what was kicking around in its day. This, I believe, is the analog board. We've got a delay line down there, lots and lots of hybrids. As you can see, there is a complete rat's nest going on in here, and I can't actually disconnect all of these connectors. Quite frequently what was done with older bits of kit like this is if you had a piece of wiring going between two boards, there you go, there's an example there, you'd have one end wired to the board and then the other end would be removable. I'm assuming there was probably some reason behind doing it that way. So we've got a can up here, which I believe is probably the sync generator. It's going to be sync generator or the head end. Sorry, up here. We've got the back of the Trinicom tube there. Doesn't look like it's actually sat. Focus. We want to focus on that, not the wire. That doesn't look like it's sat in properly. Got various other wires kicking around, so let's spin it around. If my memory serves me correct, this is a high voltage board. So again, good collection of bodge wires there. It's gone out of focus again. There we go. But the other thing to notice is, compared to modern electronics, this is all aluminium. There's no plastic in here. Even that outer case was aluminium. Let's just see what we can disconnect and make our lives a little bit easier. Yeah, I'm going to have to resort to pliers. And yes, I know. Oh. This is actually quite difficult to do one-handed. Just trying to get a little bit more inside this. I mean, yes, the build quality is, you know, quite, I wouldn't say poor, but it's not what you'd expect on modern equipment. But for the time, you know, this really would have been a very high-end piece of equipment. We've got a load of connectors down here on the bottom. Should probably zoom you out just a bit. There we go. Let's figure if we can get these boards out, I can then put you back in the stand. Have a better look. Where does that one go? Looks like, yeah, the whole interconnect board theory has just gone out the window by the looks. So, okay, this is probably as good as we're going to get. So, you've had a look at the board on the other side. It's a visual board. This appears to be the high voltage board. We've got a lot of hybrids on here, all Sony branded. Lots and lots of adjustments. I do remember looking at bits of kit like this and just thinking, what, you know, if I touch one of those pots, how the hell am I going to make this ever work again? And I really wouldn't fancy trying to put this back together. And you get a better view of the back of the tube there. And so I'm pretty sure that is a sync generator. I'll need to check on that. And there is just one screw holding that in. Can I get it one-handed? You can see the screw, I can't. There we go. Oh, of course. Haven't quite got it out. It's rubber mounted as well. Now, the way these work is I mean, most basic level is you have a target at the front of the tube. This does come straight out. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a minute. You have a target on the front of the tube, which we'll see in a minute, and then an electron gun is scanned across the target, and then the target, the charge on the area of target being scanned, is picked up by an electrode attached to the target, fed to a head-end amplifier, which I can't see yet, and then that's your video signal. And then there's all sorts of very funky analog electronics involved in turning that back into a colour signal. I was just looking at some of the caps on the bottom of that board, but you've got to look at these caps and they look fairly high quality. I don't recognise the name. Nippon Chemicon. So very high quality caps on here. But you've got to bear in mind how old this is, and this just powered up and worked. You know, this is before pre-capacitor plague. We've got the base for the Trinicom tube there. Let's get that off. I think our head-end amplifier is probably in there. But yeah, I was hoping to separate these two boards out, but it doesn't look like we're going to do that. I could just go and get the wire cutters, couldn't I? Yeah, might do that. Back in a second. Right, back with some cutters. I can almost hear the cries of anguish as I even think about going at this with cable cutters, wire cutters. What I actually want to do first is to get some of these very unusual little cable ties out of the way. Just see what we've got to work with. So, just so many wires, and so many of them just disappear off into odd angles. So I think, unfortunately, we're just going to pop this out. Ow! Got a lovely chunky ground strap down there. Now I would like to see if these boards are actually the same on the 4000 and perhaps keep these as spares. So we've got that one out. Can you see me? Yes, you can. We will look at all three of these in a minute. So yeah, we've got nothing doing there. A lot of these are actually pots, so I assume Sony's response would be, well, you change the pots as well. We've got a little backboard there. Can we get to that easy? Well, it's not a particularly exciting board. It's held somewhere. Oh, that's very nice. A little plastic clip just on the end of the board. This won't be anything exciting. This is already, I know, one of the differences between the two cameras is this backboard. Right, so we now have a gutted camera. Let's bring a board back in. I realise that this lighting probably is not helping that much. There we go. What happens if I bring it up? Just a quick look around. It is amazing the vast number of adjusters, jump wires and everything else. There's quite a few slightly odd hybrids there. Sony always did on these, like their hybrids. We've got another hybrid in here. There's another one in here. That's a delay line. Another hybrid, just so many of them. But these on this edge just look like inductors. No, delay line, DL. I'm having to focus this every time now manually. So they're delay lines. Okay, there's a few of them. And then I always remember this from when I used to work on this equipment, that Sony just literally baked everything yourself, and you'd be forever looking for strange Sony chips, quite often in packages that no one else used. I mean, you can see this one's got a quite epic heatsink on the end of the chip. But yes, this is definitely the video board. Let's just have a look around the back. It is incredibly dense for what it is. But these were among the first cameras of this kind on the market. It's a lovely old board. And sadly there's probably not much on there that's going to be worth reclaiming. This one should be fairly boring. This is just switches and things. This has got a fairly standard 3mm LED on it, whereas the camera had the other ones on. There's really not much here. We've got this is an audio level indication, and we do have a SIP or sealed chip there, which might be involved in driving that. Or it could be a power amplifier, because I think that is a headphone. That's a headphone. That is a headphone. So the odds are that this in here is an audio power amp of some kind. That cap hasn't gone. It's just got glop on it. So we've got another bodge cap on the back. Last one. So this is our high voltage board. I don't know what kind of voltage the Vidicons run on, or Trinicons run on, but that's almost certainly involved in the generation. You've got some fairly chunky caps just there. There are a lot of these hybrids in here. Again, we've got all sorts of adjustments on here. I just dread to think how long it takes to set one of these up from scratch. It must have been very labour intensive. Buried down here in the wiring, which I hadn't noticed before, and it's quite clearly marked, it's a fuse, 1.6 amps. But again, Nippon Chemicon caps, all good quality parts. More strange Sony chippery tucked away in there. Oh, there's an NEC chip in there. That might actually be something normal. That's probably 4000 series CMOS. Another one down there. Well, it's fairly typical of sort of the stuff that Sony were turning out at that time. Right, I'm going to stop you for a second and go down on the bench. Right, back. I'm fairly sure this is a sync generator, so this acts as a time base for the whole thing. I'm zoomed in quite fast, so I apologise if I either blind you or go out of shot like that. So what have we got in here? Nothing on that side. It's quite a rough looking board, to be honest. So this will be where the magic happens. And there we go. Just come back in for you. There's not really much going on here. It's just a single dedicated chip. I don't want to use the term ASIC because that's more a digital thing. But as you can see, we've got connections on the side here. BF, sync, blanking, alt, no idea, HD, no idea, VD, horizontal deflection, vertical deflection, possibly. So yeah, there's that. I'm guessing that this does all the synchronization. focus. This would handle all the synchronization in the camera, the scanning of the tube, the video signal synchronization. The lot would be done to reference this. Right, so let's go back out a little. And this is really playing up, and I'm sure it's the sun that's causing it. I have want to set up a new bench for doing these, along with a new camera that I want to get hold of. So hopefully we can do something about that. So let's take some more of this apart. Can we make our lives any easier? I suppose if I really wanted to upset the purists, I could be using an electric screwdriver as well. I mean, I could recase that little CRT and use it that way, but it's just a lot of electronics for not very much. I just noticed there is actually a type number for that tube there. 40CB4. Does that get us anything on doing that? Felt like it should do. I realise a lot of this now is just undoing random screws until we get where we want. I'd like to make this a little less bulky if I can. There's a serial number for anyone that's even remotely interested. Didn't quite go far enough. There we go. You can see it's a lovely chassis that this thing is made with. And I've just found... what have we here? It's either going to be a power transistor or a regulator. This was something that was quite common in this sort of age as well. You just have a Molex style connector straight onto the pins of a power transistor or a regulator. Let's just have that off just for the sake of it. Put you back down here. That there looks like it will get the back of the camera off for me. That looks good. Are we free? There we go. So that's the business end of things. I apologise that the videos are not as polished as maybe you are expecting. I'm still learning on this stuff as well. I'm going to pause you and I'm actually going to try and do something about this sun. Right, artificial light now, much better. Looks like the camera's playing ball now as well. Right, so this is your business end, and nestled in there in the back is the Vidicon tube. Sorry, Trinicom Tube. It would be Vidicon Tube if it was anyone else's. So where do we go now? You just need to take all the screws out. I think that seems to be the best way of doing this. So as I was saying, you know, this is something that's fairly new to myself and to us as a business. It appears that you guys enjoy the YouTube videos, so they'll probably stay on. It's just how much I want to invest in doing them. We had big plans for this year in terms of videos. We were going to take the cameras on site with us to some of the events we do, and yeah, it's just not happened because, well, you know what. But as long as people are enjoying them, you know, I'd say I'd like to get a workbench set up. Mainly one to be, it's difficult. I can't afford a bench just for doing this, but I would like something slightly more permanent set up, partly for use as a work area for experimenting with things that I can just leave permanently together. I think that there holds all of this together as well. There we go, we have more goodies. Can we disconnect that? No, it's just bundled in with all the wires. I love the way all of those wires are routed there. There is just so much wiring inside this thing. And there we go. You free? Go free, little button! So that there is our... That's one of the differences between this and the other one. You get a focus? This is actually a very basic mechanical lock. Looks like you've got a normal switch there. What you've actually in fact got, can't really see, I can't really see, that is quite simply a piece of plastic that slides underneath the button and locks it. I do like that. That is so beautifully laid out. And again, we're going back to a time when, you know, people were, the engineers and that, were actually proud of the way their stuff looked. And someone obviously went to a reasonable amount of effort to make that look the way it does. So, that there, yeah, that's the socket. This really is not wanting to focus. That's the socket for the viewfinder, your microphone socket. That is one definite difference between this and the 4000, and you can see it there. I've got two microphone sockets on the 4000. You've only got one here. Turns out I didn't need to cut that either. And then you've got a microphone, which I just noticed. You've got a little rubber bumper type thing. That's actually held in by the back nut of the microphone. Can I shift that? No. So this all looks down here lens related. We've got this metal can here. There's another metal can in here as well. This is now one big solid lump of aluminium. Can we go any further? Do these come off? Where's my pliers? Actually, you know what? I don't really want to do that. Let's just give these a little bit of assistance and keep them, because again, these are the kind of things that go missing. Just gentle. I'm not actually putting any pressure on the wire cutters before people start shooting me down on that. I'm literally just using the tapered edge to pop that up. Will that come off now? We've got another screw in there. There we go, that comes off. Now I thought that, looking at it, was actually unscrewable, and that's how you got the lens off. But it's one of those bits of moulding trying to look like something else. So what have we got here? So this is your wide telephoto for the zoom. I can see more of the Trinicom tube down there. Proper teardown. That assembly is held fast by that. I'm obviously going to reach a point of no return in a second, so let's pop these off. I noticed something quite odd. We have some kind of, if I zoom you down, some kind of little coil just floating around in the breeze down here. Not quite sure what that is. Possibly filter stop motor noise getting back into things. Nippon caps, get Nippon Chemicon caps again. We have what looks like it's almost certainly a bridge here. It'd be much easier if I put it down on the bench. All wiring gone, so that goes to, that's the button on that one. So yes, this is the motor drive assembly, or motor drive controller. That one comes off there, which means that one most likely goes somewhere else that we can get to it, but there we go, gone. Actually, let's have a look at that. It's not looking like it's anything special. So this is one of the motors, I guess, but that is all analog. There's no special control or anything in there. That almost looks like it is literally just an H-bridge to drive the motor from that button and make it easier. Oh, we're now coming apart completely here. We've only got one there we can undo. There we go. What have we got here then? I'm not quite sure what that board would be. There is actually a chip on there. Now, given the amount of complexity that's been involved in everywhere else, I guess it's possible that's still part of that front circuit board. That's a PCB switch there. It's got a lovely feel to it. There's quite a mound I'm building up here. So what do we got here? So that there is the wide and zoom. I'm trying to work out how you drive that. That motor there quite obviously is supposed to engage, but it means that this has to move. I don't know what would make that move. That's certainly the zoom assembly. I'm going to leave that as one unit actually. And then down here, this motor is the iris. I'm trying to work out if we can disassemble any further, but I think we are rapidly approaching the point where we're going to start needing to find other tools. I don't think that's going to help us. Oh no, there you go, that's the lens. So let's just pop this off. Okay, we've got some kind of mechanical thing here, which I've just possibly busted. I'll have a look at that in a minute. There's our lens. So closer look at your gear. I don't actually understand how that is supposed to engage. No, focus on the motor, not the connector. So that there has to move back somehow, and I don't know how it would, unless we pulled out something that was possible. Old twist tie around the motor. There's our iris actuator. There is some form of filter there. I'm curious that I can't see any light at all. which I guess must be related to the iris. There's no way to move that, is there? Oh, now I can see through it. Can you? What happens, just out of curiosity, if we go yeah, I didn't expect that to work. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know that that looks fairly easy to change. Whether this lens is any good, I don't know, because obviously there's something going on with that focus motor. Getting towards the main event now. So what have we got here? We've got something tucked around down here. Got more transistors in here. I almost certainly can see why this actually doesn't work. Look at the state of that. I think that's the target on the Trinicom Tube. This is our head-end amplifier here. So this takes the fairly low level signals from the front of the tube and then passes them back for further processing. Now, can I even remove this? It's screwed through there. I don't reckon that this board is going to go anywhere. Board's screwed in. You have a transformer down there which appears to go to the front of the tube, which is about to die. There we go. So we've got a transformer there for isolation, and then that just looks like a very basic transistor amplifier. I don't think there's anything special going on down there. I was hoping for something more. I'm actually really quite curious as to how that Trinicon Tube is so badly damaged. Sorry, done again, Trinicon Tube. So we have a DIN socket here for a remote. I'm not quite sure what kind of remote you'd attach to this. With a capacitor bodged on the back. And we have this mysterious box. I'm curious about this because we've actually only got 3 pins. And there is going to be no getting into that. If you can see, that is just completely soldered shut. The amount of heat I'd need to put on that is going to cause problems. So what are we left with? We've got a mysterious board here. We've got a board for a switch up here and a pot. We're not too worried about that. Yeah, it looks like this entire assembly comes off. Any more for any more? There's one. It is such a nicely thought out design. Ah, right, okay. So we've got this control here. Let me just refresh my mind what that one is. That's an override for the iris. But it looks like it actually physically locks the iris out. That rod there runs all the way through and did connect to the iris. That would also be why I couldn't get the iris to do anything, because I assume this spring would keep the iris in position. Right, can we get this out yet? Here we go. There's a lot of adjustments on there. lots of adjustments as far as I can see. There appears to be one transistor there, but that's it. Right, all we've got left is the Trinicom tube and a switch. Can we get the tube out? I believe we can. I was just looking at the big soldered tag on the tube itself and thinking that might be difficult to get that out. So the tube is now floating. It looks like it's clamped. So it would appear that changing the tube in one of these is completely non-trivial. Although, would you have been able to get to that from the back? I don't know. And there's our tube. Right. Oh, you're auto focusing now. Okay. Right, so this is the heart of the camera. This is a Trinicon tube. Made in Japan. Sony Trinicon CT2132. And that is really not looking good on that front. I don't know how clear that shows. Can I clean that? I'm not sure what the target is made out of, but obviously there are other things in front of the target as well. There's a colour filter in front of the target. No, that is well and truly gone. We can possibly do a little bit more dismembering on this, can we? No, that's all we get. I'm just looking around the base to see if there's any sign of any damage in there. It doesn't look like the tube has actually been breached. Let's just take you out. So yeah, there's the tube. The sealing pit looks intact. Nothing in there looks like it's in distress. But the front of that tube is actually rough. Run my finger over that, I can feel whatever that contamination is. So yeah, if anyone has any ideas what that might be or what's happened to that. Made in Japan. That's something we haven't done. We haven't looked for a date on anything. So I'm assuming these you've got magnetic coils around the outside, so I'm guessing that would be a focus assembly, and then we're probably using electrostatic deflection, and then we've got that there, which I'm guessing is high voltage. There's also a tiny little bead type device in there. I really want to know what's destroyed the front of that tube. There you go. One last thing before I finish. I want to grab one of the larger system boards and just have a look. Can we find a date? Yes, they have been around that long, those things. Something in here must have a date. Let's grab. That's no use. really not seeing a tremendous amount here that's... $81 maybe, that seems to be a recurring theme. And there are no stamps anywhere on it either. So yeah, I mean, 81 seems a bit early, but it's possible, I guess. Crystals. There's not really any clue anywhere as to what the age of this might actually be. Got the serial number actually on the chassis. No, it's not. That must be a part number then. MSDK. No idea. Anyway, that's the mess that it resulted in. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really want to know if anyone has any ideas what might have happened to that. It seems strange. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll find something old and crusty to take apart soon.